touch. Okay, so why is it currently propagating through the air, making vibrations through space-time and giving me the sensory input of sensory waves, wave propagation, sine waves and saw waves, and all types of synthesizer. I am a synthesizer, a cognition synthesizer that is producing sound through waves and in an attempt to communicate information that then leads to other information or other parts of the information system as a whole, to other cognitive synthesizers that are cognitively synthesizing whatever it is that I am creating or putting out, what vibrations that I am making, in a sort of the same way I would, as an artist, or when I create art, would then propagate and create a certain thing like art, which is also vibrations, because matter is both a particle and a vibration. So when I make a particle, a painting is a large array of particles and waves that are stuck on the canvas, and that you cannot see that it is actually moving, just like with glass. Glass is sand that has been crystallized by heat, and because it has been crystallized by heat, it becomes transparent. But if over time, what you would see, if you let glass stand long enough, it would kind of have this melting thing. Because it's a liquid, and it would melt down because I think maybe technically it's a liquid, but I think it would, because it is sand, it is more likely to break. It's going to break and then return to dust, but technically it should be a kind of possible to get the same type of properties. Now I might be going off into some weird tangent or space, but it's because if you grain it fine enough, sand would become particles that are light enough for it to be a liquid. I would believe that to be the case, but because it is so condensed, it becomes matter. Because when something is condensed, it is matter, and matter is a hyper condensed array or set of particles that have clumped together and formed into matter in space-time. And space-time is the entirety of what we know and everything that is, and that is the larger part of everything and the universe. And then everything is cognition, cognitive synthesis. We are cognitive synthesizers that synthesize information that we get through our input sensory cortexes, but also our organs, our eyes, our hands, tactile, touch, and we are limited in our capability of understanding the world around us because of our senses. Certain animals have senses that humans do not have, and humans have senses that animals don't have, and we are limited in our understanding of the world around us by the senses that we have. We cannot perceive senses that we do not have. We cannot notice or understand the world by way of the senses that another animal might have, or senses that might have never, up until now, at least on this earth, have synthesized into by DNA, by genetic structures, by Darwinism, by evolution, have never synthesized and created those senses, but that are also possible. So there are more senses that would be possible than the ones that we know or that we understand, and those are particular. Some senses might never develop because there might never ever be a need to develop a sense to detect something, because everything is simplification. Everything is simplification. We simplify the world. Matter and math is a simplification of processes of the world. They are not the real world, they aren't reality, they are the deductions made about reality, and those deductions that we deem important and those that we don't deem important, we discard, because we are we have only so much energy, and we can have a limited ability to synthesize our energy, and we will simplify the world according to what is deemed best to us. If I am a doctor, I will synthesize or process very different information than if I am a football player. If I am a football player, I will only synthesize mostly physical and site-oriented processing schemes that come through my practice of what I am and what I do and what I play and who I am and what I, the whole shebang. That is what I will synthesize, and that is the only thing that I will do. And so because that is the only thing that I will do, that is what I will be mainly focused on. And a doctor will also, of course, develop sight, but they will read more. They are less about the physical world, more about their internal world and the processing of information about that they have heard. There will be more about hearing and seeing, sight. Different kinds of people will process information differently than other people because of their environment, their preoccupation, the thing that they are about, their proclivities, their brain structure, their physical body, as I said, the environment, the food they eat, the substances they drink, everything that they do and think about and create will synthesize, and they will synthesize and create more and other things because of it. And there's a whole array of things that will happen and be created and everything else because of who they are. They are not going to be doing anything that does not constitute what they will not make. One person will not make deductions about life the way the other does, and their processing and schemes are dependent on their history, their environment, everything that has led up to one thing and to the next. And in general, they will be a thing that processes in a limited variety of ways, and that can only boil down to a certain point. And everything is sensory information and selective focus. Selective focus is what we are. Selective focus, as you are watching here now or listening to this, you might be watching this and you will be looking at me about here, about where I am, and you will make simplified deductions about what I am doing and saying. and you will might not even hear everything that I am saying. You will not remember everything that I have said after this. You will have picked the information based on your own history, your own proclivities, and you will have, every single person is going to have a differing interpretation about reality that they are perceiving here. One person will have a negative association here, or whatever, be triggered by whatever it might be. They have like some trigger by this painting that reminds them of some sort of Renaissance building or whatever, or architectural thing, and they don't like architectural things that are about Renaissances, and they will therefore be triggered and leave and have a negative connotation with this video as I am speaking or with what I am saying, and therefore they will build up further, and then because they have multiple associations now with Renaissance thingies and me, then they will associate me with that and maybe some other things that I have said or that I'm about, and then they will clump those together and form a belief based on the heaps of data that they are perceiving and that they are trying to figure out and simplifying in their cognitive processes. A cognitive processor, a cognitive synthesizer is always trying to reason. Every cognitive processor, when it comes to at least animal life, is going to process things in certain ways dependent on the type of cognitive synthesizer, processor, if you like. They are all going to synthesize very differently. The thing with it all, with all of that, is that let's see, that one question that I find fascinating. Technically, if you wait long enough, a tree will turn into a dinosaur because of evolution. But in general, I have never heard of plants diverging into life. I think at some point an evolutionary branch might become stuck in what they are. Maybe some of them will change over time, but I can it's difficult for me to imagine that a plant can change into a living being the way that I am a living being. That's a very evolutionary, I think that's some of the more divergent evolutionary paths might be lock some creatures into being a certain way. For example, I would not believe it possible for a plant to develop eyes and start breathing. Even if it would be advantageous to do such a thing, it would be very, very strange, very difficult to imagine. Life forms are, as a whole, yes, beings that can diverge in a variety of cognitive functions, bringing us to the closure of somatosensory cortex, the prefrontal gyrus, the spinal cord, the rib cage, and the entire body, the musculature, and our sensory receptors, and the senses of our synthesis of cognition, and our senses that are cognitively abundant, and that will see everything that is fit, what are new ideas about the world, and what brings us to where we are today. Today I am here and I am talking, and it seems to be the case that there are varieties of things that are possible, and that I am synthesizing cognition into being, and that everything is happening all at once. Everything is always in the moment, in the now. I am currently here and I am talking. And what's happening is that whenever I talk, I am in the moment synthesizing subconscious structures about things that I have learned and patterns that I have learned to recognize and learned. Like I can maybe think about what I am going to say, but one thing is stacking on top of the previous thing, and what is coming to mind are things that I have learned and that I have deduced and that I am currently, because I am trying to explain something, are currently being synthesized out of my awareness, and where I am cognitively trying to formulate something because of the assignment, because of the task that I am currently putting myself to, and I have been thinking about certain stuff and learning about certain stuff, and I have been pointed into a certain direction. And because I have been pointed into this certain direction, I am currently learning and thinking, sensing and being. I am currently I am here now, in the now, and I am pulling from neurological pathways, words, ideas, concept synthesis, the synthesis of things that are being synthesized into being, into awareness, my being, myself, my senses, my words, my mouth, my waves, the waves that I am propagating physically through the air by use of my voice. The senses are right now very inactive. I am looking at my room, of course, thinking about my room, about where I am at, where I am in, but I am mainly pulling from my subconscious, my subcortical system. My spinal cord is making my arms flay around, my body go around. It is sensing heat that is being propelled towards my body, and sometimes I have a little bit cold because it's also a little cold. There is some coldness because it's cold outside, but I can feel that kind of propagating through the air as well, because air currents are flowing through the air, like heat is flowing through the air, as well as colder streams, and that whereby I am feeling hot and cold sensations on my body because of the current, of the variety of air streams on my senses that are being picked up by my senses, that are then propagated through my spinal cord into my brain, into the structure of my brain, into my prefrontal cortex, into my hippocampal, into whatever part that they are going through, whatever particular sense, sight, sounds, the tactile sensations, whatever part of my self, of my body it is, of my brain rather, that it is then triggering as a response, as a stimulus from which I am currently creating my sensory reality, my illusion of reality. It takes seconds before I have not seconds, fractions of seconds that before I am consciously aware of the things that I am feeling, because electrochemical stimulation is being propagated throughout my body. My body is feeling and sensing. It is feeling and sensing the world around me, and it is creating my world, but the world is an illusion. It is only after the world has been created, after fractions of seconds, that I then have synthesized the world around me into my cognition. It is never, ever, ever a direct correlation. My brain does not immediately have this. There would be no need for a brain if it could be happening instantly. That would violate Darwinism, that would violate evolution, it would violate a vast array of things that would, if energy is always being conserved. Energy is always being conserved, so if there's no need for me to synthesize cognition by way of my body, I would not have it, because it takes a lot of energy to create my body and to maintain it, and that will have its effects as a whole, I guess. There are other things, but I am definitely going to currently hear how well I am heard.